Hi guys, my name is Alex Ever. I am a local artist in the Eugene area. I do a ton of stuff all the way from awesome digital art to organic natural art, natural dyes. I'm so excited to be hanging out with you guys and challenging you to look a little bit closer and engage in a really awesome craft that you maybe never thought of. First things first with this video, we're going to be looking at organic collage. That's kind of going to be our focus. But for our first video today, it's going to be about foraging and collecting those materials. So foraging is when you go out to nature and you collect pieces of organic material from the site, instead of necessarily going out and buying them from a grocery store or something like that. It's about you going out, making those choices and gathering them. So for materials today, it looks maybe a little bit different than what you're used to for an art class. We are going to have a space to lay out the materials we find for foraging itself. So for going out into nature, right? Have something to collect your materials. I'll cover this later. I'll show you my favorite tool I like to use. But it's really simple, whatever you got laying around. That could even be something as pockets in a jacket. We just want a way to safely collect our materials and then a space to lay them out so they can dry. And we can kind of engage in that first part of our process. Okay, cool. Next thing, I'd love to have a moment of mindfulness with you guys. Maybe some of you guys have engaged in mindfulness techniques before. Maybe some of you haven't. For me, I love mindfulness. It's so awesome. I'm still learning about it. I'm still struggling, but just like any skill, it's a practice. So since we're engaging with nature and we're taking a moment, to think a little bit deeper as I ask you to challenge yourselves, let's have this moment together, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna breathe in through our nose. 6 counts. And then you're going to release from your mouth 7 counts. So while we're doing that, we're going to use our hands. And as you breathe in through your nose, you're going to clench your fist as tight as you can. And then when you exhale with your mouth, you're going to slowly release all that tension. So get your body into a comfortable position, sitting up straight. You can close your eyes if you want. And I'm going to lead you through this, okay? So let's do one more. Ready? In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to release 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's try one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Clench your fists and release 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just a quick moment of mindfulness, a great way to pause, regulate your breath, help your mind and body connect to each other so you can kind of get ready and get a little bit more focused. I also love getting our hands involved, especially it can help out guide when maybe the breathing is a little bit new or challenging for you. Cool. Thank you, guys. So jumping into foraging, shifting gears, right? We're all about collecting natural material so we can make kind of our natural collage and do art pieces with that, right? With foraging, this is stuff that you guys kind of have been doing since you were little kids, right? Remember going on walks and you pick up a stick and it's so much fun. It was so interesting. Or getting a special rock and keeping that in your pocket, right? So it's a similar idea, but you. And the difference is there's some more rules about it, right? You're older now. You have some responsibility here. So I have the 5 basic rules that I'd love to show you guys. I did some videos out in nature to kind of review that. So a little bit silly, bear with me. But here they are, 5 basic rules of foraging.
Didn't see you there, just admiring nature in all of its splendor while I'm outside. But since you're here, why don't I introduce the 5 basic rules of foraging? Rule number 1, which may seem pretty silly for some of you guys, is actually take an adult with you. You want to have someone that you can touch base with, right? This looks really different compared to, hey, I'm going out in the yard or right in front of where we live, compared to I'm going to a totally different park, right? It's all about communicating and making sure that you can touch base with them. They might have advice or input you didn't think about. You know, and if you have someone that you care about hanging out with you, then it's probably going to be a way more fun time as well. Rule number 2, you want to have permission to forage wherever you're choosing to collect material. This can be as simple as double checking with a guardian or adult, like, hey, can I take this stuff out of our yard? To, oh my goodness, awesome neighbor, you have some awesome plants. Hey, let me knock on your door and ask if I could take some. All the way to public parks or trails. They actually have a lot of different specifications on what you can or can't collect, or how your touch or input will affect the habitats there. So you might actually have to get permission from people who watch over trails. So, you know, once again, this may feel kind of silly if you're picking some grass, right? But it's an important thing to do, and it's a really important step to learn more about what you're foraging and to make sure that your impact is a good one when you're going out and investigating nature and collecting materials. So, rule 3, know what you're collecting when you're picking it up. Things as simple as grass, pine cones, right? You know that stuff. But you might run into more complex plants, especially when you're taking time to look at ecosystems and notice detail, right? So next to me, I have a beautiful cherry blossom tree, right? I know what this is. So if I'm looking at the base of the tree, I feel confident in what I'm picking up. I know it's safe. Compared to something over here, there might be some more invasive plants, or there could be something similar to poison oak hiding in here, which I wouldn't want to touch, either because I know it's not okay to touch, or it's not very safe to grab, right? So be mindful, look at these things, but stay on alert and be aware of what you're grabbing. So rule 4, only take what you need. You might see an abundance of different things, right? But you don't want to strip the land or the area of all that plant just because you think you can, right? We want to be mindful of what could be living here, right? What is our touch doing to the space? What small environments am I affecting, right? So we want to be mindful of those choices. So only take a little bit. A rule of thumb that I've heard before is if you have a pocket of plants or a cluster, right? You know, think about this much. I want to take a fifth of that amount because there's enough where it can still grow, and then I'm also not damaging the plant beyond the point where it can't continue to provide and be a part of the ecosystem that it is a part of. Final rule, only take the part of the plant that you're going to use. So kind of similar to rule 4, but with rule 5, it's thinking about what you are taking, how much as well. Instead of just harvesting pieces, not taking all of it, right? For instance, let's look at this branch. If I'm not going to use this whole branch, right, I'm not going to take the whole thing off. Maybe I'll take some small twigs. Maybe I'll take one of the flowers, right? So let's push ourselves to be a little bit more mindful and fair about what, and that asks for more focus. That asks for attention to detail, being mindful, being thoughtful. So that's where rule 5 sounds really similar, maybe a little silly, maybe common sense, but when you really activate that and push yourselves, you're being more mindful about how your hand is coming into contact with these plants and what you're doing. Bonus rule for COVID times, you know, you guys have been told this again and again, but remember, if you're out exploring places, public places, bring your mask with you, right? In some of my videos I had that in my pocket, or I have it down, but I'm making sure I am completely away from other people. But as I walk, as I share these spaces, I make sure I have my mask and I have it on. So, right, we're thinking deeper. We're thinking about how our choices affect others. So let's extend that with how we're being safe and mindful of spaces, okay?
Awesome. Thank you guys for taking a moment to listen to that. I know some of those may feel maybe a bit obvious to you. Like, no doubt, Alex, I'm not going to go do this, but the rules for a reason, right? It's trying to make sure that we are being respectful. And we're asking ourselves to do a little bit more to be responsible, especially when we're taking that time to, you know, further develop our relationship with nature and look closer at the ecosystems and spaces that we share. So shifting gears, right? I'm saying go collect stuff, go grab things. When we go outside to collect our materials, I want you to gather a few things. So we're aiming for objects that are, you know, think about can fit in your hand. I have some examples right here laid out in a few piles. And I've collected these from a number of spaces. And this can look like a different experience for all of you guys. But like I said at the beginning of the video, right? Foraging isn't going to the grocery store and grabbing stuff. It's going out into nature, taking a look at different environments, different ecosystems. These are all from different places. From this is actually from a sidewalk from some roses that fell. I didn't actually pick them off the flower. You know, this was from a trail. You'll see where these pop up in a video later. But there's a lot of different things, right? And I didn't choose these objects because, oh, they're the most beautiful and I love them and I have to have a crazy different amount. I grabbed them because they excited me. They interested me, right? And that's going to be a big part of this too. Not just going for things that are easy and right there and quick. Take a moment to see what connects with you, what's interested. Remember that spark when maybe you were younger and I talked about like, picking up that rock and putting it in your pocket? Find that. Give yourself permission in these places to have that, right? So I've talked about this before, but kind of shifting gears. You've heard about me being mindful of those environments and those spaces, right? So this is where, you know, I'm asking you guys to uphold that, look deeper, think deeper about what we're doing and, you know, be mindful, right, about how our impact as people, how that is affecting the spaces we're going into, right? Are you ripping off a bunch of bark of a young tree and you're actually damaging or hurting that tree? Are you splashing around in a small creek and collecting all these exciting elements, but you're actually taking away important food resource or the safety of some animals' environments, right? These are things you've noticed before. So what I'm asking you to do is to look deeper, right? See signs of people impacting environments. See signs of smaller, larger, different organisms persisting, right? That's something where I really want you guys to look deeper. And I think that's where it makes the difference, right? Combining the excitement with understanding what our hand and our touch is going to do to those spaces and be more responsible about it, right? So kind of reflecting on that, you've already had these examples here, right? I've talked about where you can go. I've talked about some of the things I found, you know, being mindful about what we're doing with collecting those. But specifically for what you'll be doing with me and what I'm excited to challenge you to do, I really want to encourage you guys to find smaller pieces like these, right? I even have a few things like so local hazelnuts or filberts, as they're called, that I found. I do have stuff like rocks as well, right? I found some really cool shapes, some neat ones. And there's a variety here. So work hard, try to go to those different spaces if you can, based off of what you can or can't do. But try to get a variety of those smaller pieces so they can fit in the size of your hand. I say that because I've seen people who have run up and they get a giant branch, and that's a little bit more challenging to work with, and that's way more that they need, right? So what I would love to do now is I'm going to show you another video that I have. It's about a few more details, kind of talking about some of the things that I already touched upon here. So I'll show you some of the tools I use, looking a bit deeper in those different environments and how you can do that, and how I really want to encourage you to take that time to not only be excited, but take 15 seconds longer than you normally would to look at something. So we'll take a look at that now.
Is show everyone the materials I like to use when I go foraging. As you can see, I have some very serious high-tech material. It's just a box that I got some mail in, so I kept that. And I like using an open container to collect my materials, so that way they're not getting crushed or squished as I collect multiple things, or as I rummage around, they're not getting broken into smaller pieces. So, you take what's comfortable, what you have lying around. I'm a fan of the box, as you can see. I also have some used plastic bags to separate things. And later on, I'll talk more about that process where we organize the materials and lay them out. But for now, just focus on using something you have around to safely collect those materials without really changing them or crushing them or squishing them, right? Another thing I kind of want to talk about, I mentioned it before, but it's looking a bit closer. So, all the different places you can go to go foraging, right? You can go to a yard, a sidewalk, a park, right? So I'm in more of kind of a trail or park setting. And there's a lot of options if I take a moment to look closer, right? I have this really beautiful decomposing forest floor where I have so many options that maybe a lot of people overlook when foraging. Some of the things that I really actually love to look at, right? It's going to be decayed leaves. Right here, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but I have essentially the skeleton of a leaf. And I wouldn't see this if I didn't take the time to look and look for pieces. So I really encourage you to take a moment to find those details and see what you're touching, right? With that leaf, it was a great example of a decomposer in an environment, right? What was the role of that leaf? How much time do you think that took for the leaf to go from something like this, right? All the way to another example. Here's another skeleton or decomposed leaf right here. So take that time. Foraging for materials is not rushing and grabbing stuff. I'm gonna get a handful of grass and some twigs and some rocks, right? It's engaging with those environments, being mindful about your touch as a person. So, especially with a trail or a park, look at the ground. Don't just run for flowers and the easiest things to find. You're gonna see so much more. Different environment. Still a park, right? It's not the same as that rich forest bed floor with all those decomposing pieces. But maybe you're going, Alex, that's great. I'd love to go run around in trails and parks if I could. But if you can get somewhere that's even a sidewalk or a paved trail, there's a lot you can see and notice and collect for foraging if you just take some time to look, right? If we look down here kind of by my hands, right, we can see all these different pieces of grass. There's different twigs. There are small pieces of clover that we can look at and we can use. I mentioned before, right, don't just run and grab grass because it's the first thing you can find. But, depending on where you're at and what you can do, go for it though, right? Take a look at what we can find, right? What's the difference between the yellow blades of grass and the green ones? Ones that are thicker, ones that are smaller. Are you looking at the things or collecting the things that have been affected by humans walking on them, right? that grass compared to another location that maybe doesn't have as much human impact. So when you choose to engage and look closer, you're going to find a lot more. So if you can, you know, I understand, go where you can go, but the more places you can visit and the more times you can take to stop and look and touch and engage and think and question, the better it's going to be for you. You know, I've talked a lot about looking closer, right? We're looking at ecosystems. We're being mindful about what we pick, right? I have to mention this one because this usually comes up. A lot of people want to pick flowers because their colors are so bright and attractive. They're gorgeous, right? But I want you guys to be mindful about you know, how you pick flowers. This is a public park. I didn't plant these. I didn't get permission to collect these. It would feel wrong to me if I took these because, one, I didn't ask permission, right? And two, you know, I'd be taking away these signs of spring or change of the seasons from other people that may enjoy them, right? However, I wanted to show you this being a great example of how you could forage and collect these really exciting, interesting things without, you know, taking things unfairly, being a little bit more ethical about it. So we're right by a basketball court, and I think a stray basketball hit these poor flowers. But I can see that a few of these crocus flowers, they actually have some crushed petals that fell off. So right here, right, I can collect this really attractive, really bright colored petal that I'd love to see how it changes when it dries for collecting my natural materials. So doing things like that, right? I'm stopping, I'm thinking about who this is for, and then I'm going and I'm looking closer. And I'm being mindful about how my touch, how my impact is affecting this environment, the ecosystem, the people who put these here, right? And that's what makes the difference. That's what makes the shift about going out there and finding the material, right? Thinking a little bit further. So I'm gonna look around and see what kind of crushed petals I can find and salvage, knowing that I'll still leave these here for other people to enjoy.
Awesome. So thank you guys for humoring me with all of that. I know that's a lot of talking and some stuff I'm really reiterating and really hitting home on. So, you know, take a moment, look back, look a little bit deeper. In the meantime, fast forward, right? I want to talk to you guys now as if you went out and you took that time to collect those materials, and you're coming back to where you're staying with a bag, a box full of lovely organic materials. So while those videos were playing, I kind of started moving the pieces around and organizing them. You know, and you might be thinking like, Alex, why do I need to organize these materials? Like, okay, I'll make sure they don't get gross and mushy and like thrown in a pile. But this really is an important part of the process. And, you know, this is another thing I'm asking you guys to kind of meet with and challenge yourself to try. Organizing your materials is not about copying me, right? It's not copying what I have here or how I did this. It's about taking time to reflect on those smaller pieces that you found, to notice the nuances on them, right? From looking at a leaf and seeing the blend of color, you know, to the size of materials and how maybe they're larger here and they get a little bit smaller. Not only do we want to put these in a place where they're going to dry safely, you know, I made a joke about things kind of getting squished and molding. It's that time for reflection and kind of a moment of mindfulness you get to have while doing that. Any satisfaction you've ever gotten from organizing things by color, by shape, by spot, size, adjusting things, even the way you might adjust your hair to make it look right. Those little moments that just click and feel great, it's kind of tapping into the same idea with organizing your materials. It's what feels good for you. I've already mentioned some, but we have some examples here, right? Going from size, from largest to smallest. You know, doing towers, I kind of like doing lines or towers or squares, laying them out. You know, I like arranging my pieces in a way that it fills up kind of that full canvas, that full idea. So what I would love for you guys to do now, done listening to me talk, I encourage you, start organizing your materials in a safe location. This can be on a towel, paper towel, whatever works best for you. Feel free to kind of look at what I did as some examples of how you can organize it. But, once again, what feels right for you? What clicks for you, right? This may feel really tedious or like an odd chore, but once again, I'm asking you guys, challenge yourselves, okay? Challenge yourselves with this one. Take time. I talked about tapping into that younger version of yourself, excited, who would pick up rocks and stick them in their pocket. Tap back into that joy, some of the things you found here, right? Reflect on where you found them. Think about some of the sounds you noticed when you were out finding these materials. This is a positive time for you to reflect on that experience that you had. If you kind of live in a space that maybe is a bit busier or louder, if you can, I recommend listening to instrumental music. That's not too crazy. That can really help this process and allow it to feel a little bit more rewarding. So you guys don't have to move as fast as me. Take the time to do this. I'd recommend, if you can, minimum of 15 minutes, try to hit 20 if you can, but spend your time organizing materials, laying them out, letting them dry. That's going to be a big one. So, you can come back to the video, see how I did stuff. But once again, it's tapping into yourself. But now it's kind of closing reflection. I know it's been a lot of me talking, but these are some really big, important ideas. And I kind of want us to tap back into what we did with our moment of mindfulness. So let's adjust our bodies again. Push your shoulders back, see that where you had some tension. I invite you guys to close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you some questions while you take some nice calming breaths, breathing through the nose and breathe out through the mouth, reflecting on your time out in nature, right? You were out there. Think about what was your favorite material you found while you were collecting organic materials. Take time to appreciate that about yourself. You noticed detail. You took time to do this. You arrange things in a way that clicks for you. So I really invite you to appreciate the good work that you've done. Maybe tapping into your younger inner child, right? And getting out there and getting in nature. I want to thank you guys for looking at this. I know it's playing on a weird mix of things that either feel intuitive or are odd. Maybe it doesn't feel like art making, but even something as simple as arranging pieces and connecting with nature, that's a huge thing, right? That's so, so huge. And we're going to build off of these ideas later with our other sessions. I'm really excited to challenge you guys to play with these found materials, and we'll see how they change once they've dried. I also want to invite you guys, before you leave, reflect upon your time with what you saw when you were collecting materials. What were signs of changing of the seasons that you saw, right? Try documenting your thoughts or feelings, right? Give yourself space. Give yourself the attention that you gave to, organize the plants and look at those ecosystems. Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to do some more work